Hello everyone, welcome back to the Zekko football channel. Today we are turning our attention to the Manchester derby and previewing what is to come. If you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and you turn on those notifications. It seriously helps me out and is very much appreciated. Right, let's get into it. To begin, we're going to be having a look at the lineups, and I'm going to start with Manchester United as they are the side at home. I've got them set up a little bit differently than they have been this season. I think they need a little bit more defensive solidity, and at the same time, if they're going to be relinquishing so much of the ball and then still not creating too many chances, being a little bit more defensively solid should be something that they want to look at. I've got them set up in a 4-2-3-1. I've got Onana in goal, Diogo Dalot out at right back, the centre-back partnership of Harry Maguire and Rafael Varane, and Region out at left back. This is where the changes come in. I've got Amrabat and Casemiro as almost a double pivot, just to give them that little bit of defensive security in front of that back four. Bruno Fernandes holds as that central attacking midfielder. On the left, we've got Marcus Rashford. On the right, we have Antony. And up front, we have Rasmus Højlund. And this is the Manchester United side. And now we turn our attentions to the Manchester City side, the visitors of this tie. I've got them set up in their 4-2-3-1, but something that's very different from the setup that I showed for Manchester United is the way that Man City change their positions out of possession and in possession. It just means that they have a completely different formation when they have the ball. Ederson is obviously in goal. Walker, Stones, Diaz and Gvardiol make up that back four. John Stones is absolutely pivotal in this, in the way he moves forward into central midfield, just being able to pick up those pockets of space that little bit further forwards. Rodri and Bernardo Silva are the two players that I've chosen to be in central midfield for Manchester City. Silva obviously moving forwards once they have the ball, and Rodri being that key linchpin to be that pivot, that central metronome to be able to keep the play ticking. Further on ahead of him, I've got Julian Alvarez making sure that he's going to solidify this spot in that central attacking slash number 2 striking role. Doku is out on the left hand side and Phil Foden is out on the right. Foden being pushed out to that right hand side rather than being forced to be in the centre of the pitch. I just think he's that little bit better out on the wing next to the likes of Region, and being able to make those runs infield from out, just being able to drift through the game a little bit better. And then of course you've got the main man himself, Erling Haaland, up front. And this is your Manchester City side. So how is the game going to break down? Well, I'd like to say that it's going to be a close match. I'd like to say that Manchester United are really going to bring something against Manchester City and make it a game. Unfortunately, I just think the two sides are too far apart in terms of quality, in terms of cohesion, and in terms of being able to simply put the ball in the back of the net. Manchester United have seriously struggled with that over this season. Over the last 9 games, they've really failed to score, only scoring 11 times and conceding 13. At the same time, Manchester City are pretty much themselves. They've lost a couple of games, yes, but their dictation through midfield, through Rodri, and their ability to really beat people out on the outside through the pace and power of Jeremy Doku are two real assets for them. Not to mention they have one of the best goal scorers, if not the best goal scorer in the world, in Erling Haaland. Phil Foden out on this right-hand side I really think is going to cause Manchester United some problems, and at the same time Man United's cohesion just isn't there. They can't really string too many passes together, and when they do overcommit through the attacking prowess of Dalot and Region, they're going to leave themselves open to the counter-attack. But let's start on Manchester United. Let's talk about how they're going to really go forwards. I've got them in a more attacking position, and if you think there are far too many lines on this, just bear with me. So when they go forwards, they're going to attempt to really hit the flanks. Antony on this right-hand side is going to be overlapped by Dalot to try and create that little bit of space. He wants to cut inside out onto his left foot to be either take a shot or cross over towards Højlund. The problem with this is that the domination of John Stones and Ruben Diaz is going to be far too much for Højlund, I feel. They're going to need deep late-lying runs, but because of the two central defensive midfielders in terms of Casemiro and Amrabat, I just don't see where they're going to get that. Marcus Rashford out on this left-hand side is going to attempt to really cut inside as well, or go towards the byline, but the problem he's got is his duel against Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker is obviously one of the best 1v1 specialists in the league today. His overlap from Region is going to help him to really cut inside, but then I think he's got far too much to do. Manchester City are one of the best defensive sides in the league. They've only conceded 7 11 goals this season, and I can't see Manchester United really changing that. At the same time, I do think that the defensive prowess of Amrabat and Casemiro should give them a bit more defensive solidity, but that's not going to stop Manchester City from really applying the pressure through their counter-attacks. Once Rodri gets the ball, he's going to look for passes over towards the left-hand side to try and isolate Jeremy Doku against the likes of Rafa Varane and Diogo Dalot. Erling Haaland, we haven't spoken about him yet, but he's obviously going to have a major part to play. His mismatch against Casemiro is going to be huge, which is why I've included Amrabat in the side. I still don't think it's going to be enough to really stop the Norwegian, but he's going to be making those counter-attacking runs in through the centre of the pitch, allowing the likes of Julian Alvarez to come over through the right-hand side. Phil Foden crossing over, making that infield run at the same time. Man City are going to be absolutely devastating in the counter-attack, and that's where Manchester United have really conceded a lot of space and conceded a lot of problems. It's through the opening of space once they start to overcommit themselves, and being at home, I expect them to try and go forwards. Bruno Fernandes is going to attempt to drop into pockets of space to pick up the ball from Amrabat, but Man City's pressing, I think, is going to stop him from doing that. He's going to end up dropping far too deep and not be able to play those passes. Instead, he's going to look for long balls over to Antony and over to Marcus Rashford, but they will more than likely be intercepted. So it's not looking like a good day at the office for Man United. As for the Man City, let's talk about them for a moment, because their oppression on the ball is going to be so much more imposing than we've seen anything from Manchester United. I just think that Rodri and John Stones in that dual midfield pivot position, combined with the likes of Bernardo Silva and Julian Alvarez creating that box in midfield, is going to be far too much for Man United's press. Then you look at Phil Foden and Jeremy Doku out on the two wings. They're going to hold out wide, I believe, and this is where Manchester United have conceded a lot of their goals. It's holding out wide and then making deep line runs towards the byline. This is going to be a real key battle out on these sides. Doku against Dalot, and of course Phil Foden up against Reguilon. Reguilon has only just come back from injury, so it remains to be seen whether he's going to be properly match fit. As I said, they're going to be hitting towards the byline and then playing one of two passes, either the front post pass towards Erling Haaland or the back post pass or towards the centre of the box towards Julian Alvarez once he makes that bypassing run through Casemiro and Amrabat. Manchester City's domination and ability to really hold onto the ball is going to hurt United to no end, and I do think that they're eventually going to wear them down. And then you have to talk about the mentality side. If Man City score early, I can really seeing it become something of an embarrassing scoreline. They're going to dominate possession, dominate the ball, and really start to hammer home how much better they are than United. Of course, United are going to have their own counter-attacking opportunities. Marcus Rashford and Antony are going to try and isolate themselves onto the two City centre-backs in terms of Kyle Walker and obviously Gvardiol. I do think that Antony has the beating of Gvardiol for pace, but the tackling prowess of Gvardiol and his strength should be enough to be able to stop him. Pinpoint passes are going to be needed from Bruno Fernandes to even find any kind of opportunity, and then you've got the likes of Rasmus Højlund against Ruben Diaz, which again could be a mismatch, but I don't think Manchester United are going to have enough of the ball to really make anything of the opportunities that they're given by Man City. City's press against Brighton was extremely useful and very impressive. The likes of Julian Alvarez and Bernardo Silva, who are absolute workhorses, are going to stop Manchester United from really being able to play out. And this is where the balance of my attack and the balance of my team setup for Man United comes into question. Amrabat is a very good defensive midfielder, and so is Casemiro. However, together I don't really see the progression of play through into the strikers. I think they have to play this formation, don't get me wrong. If they play a lone pivot, it's going to become embarrassing very quickly. But if they play these two holding midfielders, I think the progression through into the forward players is going to be nullified, especially with the defensive stability and defensive runs of Alvarez and Silva. In a long story short, I just don't see where Manchester United get their goals from. Perhaps counter-attacking through moments might lead to some favourable opportunities, and the runs from the likes of Reguilon and Dalot might give the attackers some opportunities. However, I just think that over a course of 90 minutes, Man City have too much power, they have too much pace, they have too much quality for a dwindling and just poor-looking side like Manchester United can deal with. I just don't think they have enough resources within them to be able to stop the powerhouse, the defensive powerhouse that is Manchester City, and then stop them from scoring at the other end. It's going to be a long day for Manchester United, if you ask me. And that's where we come to the predictions. I've got Manchester City comfortably winning this and somewhat embarrassing Manchester United by 3-0. I don't see Manchester United scoring. We've seen that they have struggled over the last few games. The last few goals they've gotten are from Scott McTominay, Harry Maguire, and Diogo Dalot. The forward line isn't doing anything and they're struggling to find any kind of attacking intent. Meanwhile, Manchester City are looking as dangerous as ever. Their game against Brighton was extremely impressive. Phil Foden impressing again, Erling Haaland getting on the score sheet, and Jeremy Doku really starting to impose himself on this City side. I think it could be 3, but if they were to score early, I could see it being a whole lot more. My question to you is, how do you see this game playing out? Let me know your thoughts and scoreline in the comments section below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learnt something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.